Okay, it says we're live. Put on some lipstick. I'm just kidding. It's, lip balm. Let me do a quick audio check. Make sure. Okay, we are good to go. That looks good. That's up and running. So all is right in the world. Welcome to Hoosier Hardware. Let me, because I'm horrible at my job of the whole YouTube thing. I'm absolutely terrible at it. Let me find myself so I can tweet out this lovely link. Here we go. Live with my thoughts on the recent Xbox Project Scorpio leak. Hashtag Hoosier Hardware. Okay, that's tweeted out. The sort of the back end things are done. Let's run an intro. And Hoosier Hardware. Here we go. Tech is fun. And bam. Okay, we're here. So for those of you that don't know, you can follow me, and it is on screen at Hoosier Hardware on both Instagram and on Twitter. Best places to find me if you have any interaction whatsoever, you want to interact in some way. Without further ado, let's hop right into the details. And this comes from the Tech Report, and this is basically, this article is more or less a carbon copy of the other articles that are out there. So, for those of you that don't know, Project Scorpio is the 4K capable, extremely upgraded Xbox One that is supposed to be coming out late 2017. It's supposed to be a big leap forward for the Xbox fans as far as the ability to run a game, and one would believe based on that it gives us an ability to not just run games at 4K resolution, but also to run other games at just 1080p 60 FPS, for example, instead of like 900p 30 FPS. So even games that don't run at 4K should be able to run much faster on it because it is just sporting much better hardware. So there's a few things that we need to point out or sort of throw out with this this leak. And the first one is that, or one of the major things here is they're getting rid of ESRAM, and they're gonna throw in GDDR5, which has been the standard with graphics cards on the desktop PC side for a while now, for a long while. In fact, we're getting ready to move away from GDDR5, hopefully, anyways, in the somewhat near future towards HBM2 rather. And even NVIDIA sort of moved away from it with the GDDR5X, which is a faster variant of it. Supposedly, this will make game development on the Xbox a little bit easier, which is always a good thing. But it will have to support, obviously, backwards compatibility, as the article points out, because and developers will still have to sort of code that in for people that run those games on the original Xbox One, because if Microsoft's goal there is to not have any exclusives for the Xbox One Scorpio, then you have to make developers, to get into the marketplace, you have to make developers design games for the original Xbox One, and that's fine. That's all fine and dandy. The other part that I wanted to mention here actually comes from the developer leak, which I'll post this up as well in the video description here. Huzzah. And the other part of this leak was, and this comes from a developer, and he's talking about the Scorpio, and the quote apparently is Scorpio isn't just a half-assed upgrade, but a full-blown next-gen machine that's just backwards compatible to your current library. Now, that's great, because one of the big pitfalls of console gaming in the past has been that you lose the compatibility to really play your old games. So a lot of people harp on the PC about not being a living room experience. The problem with the console generations is if you want to continue playing your games, you sort of have to leave your systems all hooked up. So you end up with this pile of systems in your entertainment center, and you can either dig old consoles out and play them for a few days and put them back away, or you can leave them plugged in all the time, and leaving them plugged in is super ugly. So by saying that this is a full-blown next-gen upgrade, there's a little bit of sort of read between the lines here. Microsoft probably wants to make the Xbox One it's more or less its last console generation in the traditional sense of the Xbox 2 would be or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it would be the fourth Xbox. But anyways, the next Xbox would completely eliminate the Xbox One's game library. It wouldn't be compatible. Microsoft's probably not going to do that anymore. They are more likely going to develop the console, or the next console, which would be Scorpio in this case, to be completely backwards compatible. It'll use the same sort of backend in similar way they're doing the PC right now, where Windows 10 is supposedly, at least for the foreseeable future, their last humongous operating system upgrade, and instead they're going with rolling upgrade cycle, more in line, sort of like what Apple does, except Apple does still release different generations of their operating system, but they don't tend to be as big of leaps as the past Windows have. And we're going to see the same thing with these consoles. The Scorpio will maintain backwards compatibility, but I wonder if what Microsoft will eventually do is sort of do a rolling upgrade cycle, where maybe once a year they release a new Xbox with slightly upgraded graphics, slightly upgraded processor, all that sort of thing, and then leave it more up to the developers of the games to see which Xboxes will be supported in the past. For example, we'll call it Xbox 3. So we have the Xbox One, we have Project Scorpio, then we'll call it Xbox 3 for my example here as the year after Scorpio. So maybe Microsoft comes out with another Xbox down the road. So game developers, in my mind, may develop games for the Xbox 3 then, and stipulate there that, okay, these are also compatible with the Xbox Scorpio, and then not compatible with the original Xbox One, based on the horsepower it takes to run the game. And I would think that Microsoft would leave that sort of thing more up to the developers, sort of like a minimum system requirement type of stipulation that developers could use down the road in future generations to make sure that whatever hardware you're using can play the game at very playable frame rates, and you won't have to worry about whether your Xbox One, even though it's technically compatible, whether it will be able or won't be able to run it. So that's the sort of rolling cycle I could see Microsoft running. Maybe it wouldn't be a new Xbox every year. Maybe it would be a new Xbox every 2 years or every few years, instead of where the Xbox 360 lasted for the better part of a decade before it was even really thought about being replaced. It lasted forever. With a rolling cycle, you would eliminate that. People that buy an Xbox today would be supported for at least a few years, you would think, maybe even more than a few years. And people that want the bleeding edge of technology then also wouldn't be locked out completely as they are right now. Because right now, the situation with console gaming is, unless you're going to go for the PC gaming, you just don't have access to great hardware. And I think a rolling cycle would help at least alleviate that a little bit. So that's what I look for on that regard. Flipping gears a little, and this is sort of where the PC gamer in me comes out, if that is the direction Microsoft goes. And now that we know that we're not really going to be seeing first-party Xbox exclusives, where those what used to be first-party Xbox exclusives will also be available on PC through the Xbox Live Marketplace. If you're considering the Scorpio, and let's say its price tag, because it was said by Microsoft that it would be a high-end product, a premium product. If you're going to spend $500 or $600 on a Scorpio, why not spend that on a gaming PC instead? And the reason I say that is because once you have the initial system built, your upgrades become cheaper, especially if you were going to be put into the cycle where you're going to be wanting to upgrade your console every few years anyways. Your upgrades are cheaper. For example, in my current PC, which is over here, I have never upgraded the power supply. It's still it's a Thermaltake 850 watt 80 plus bronze certified power supply. Never upgraded that. I upgrade the GPU more frequently. It is running a 1070, but I mean, it had a 970 last year. There was really no reason to upgrade other than my own enthusiasm for upgrades. So you wouldn't have to upgrade the GPU all the time. If you get a solid processor to start with, like a i5, gaming-wise, unless you're doing a lot of streaming and sort of video production, but gaming-wise, there's really not much a reason to upgrade that all that often at all. In fact, if you're still running like a i5 2500K from 4 or 5 years ago, you're still probably fine. So processor doesn't need to upgrade all that much. You can put a lot more storage in a PC. You could start with your 1 terabyte hard drive, which comes pretty much standard with most consoles, either 500 gigs or what I think more commonly now is 1 terabyte. You could start with your 1 terabyte hard drive, and you could then upgrade. So you could start with a 1 terabyte hard drive. Maybe then when you save up about $40, you add a 120 gigabyte SSD to put your operating system on. So now your operating system flies. And then you save up a little more money down the road. Maybe you save up $70 and you get a 240 gig SSD, and you put all your games that you use all the time on that SSD, and all the other games that you only play occasionally go on the hard drive. And you sort of do that. Right now in my system, I have a 1 terabyte hard drive, and I have two 480 gigabyte SSDs that house my operating system and my most common games, along with scratch discs for video editing, all that good stuff. And it works great. The beauty is, if I want to add 2 more hard drives, I have slots in my computer, in the chassis itself, to handle 2 more hard drives, and that's without adding the other drive cage, which I believe would add another 4 to the equation if I really wanted to. I'm not going to, but I could. So there's that option available to PC gamers. And when I go back to that $500 price point, I look at that and say, okay, the startup cost of a PC, if you're going for a higher-end PC, especially at launch, may actually be, it may actually be to the point where it may be a little more expensive to build a really nice, solid base for your computer. Things that I don't recommend skimping out on, and I'm actually going to go ahead and add a card for this, because I talked about building a crazy cheap gaming... Oh, I never did that video. I never made that video. So this card is somewhat relevant in that the card that I just posted is it's about building a crazy cheap PC. But if you want to build a budget PC, but one that has a very clear upgrade path, what you need to do there is get a good power supply, get a good chassis. So don't get the $25 budget Newegg chassis. I mean, you can, but it doesn't give you a lot of room to grow. Get a solid mid tower. Get a fractal Define R5. Or even a Define R4. Get an S340 or H440. Get a solid computer case. So when you go to upgrade, you're not always looking for those base components. Get yourself a DVD drive. I very rarely use the DVD drive in my computer, and you don't even have to get an internal one. Get a USB one or something even, but have one on hand just in case you ever want to watch a movie in your computer and you happen to have the physical DVD. I have a disc drive. I rarely use it, but it's there if I need it. Get a modern platform. Invest in a modern platform. Don't buy, and it sort of goes against. I did a video recently. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this card in there too. Is the FX8350 still relevant? And that video points out that for gaming, yes, the A350 is still relevant, but if you're building a brand new computer, probably don't go that route. Get a new platform. Get yourself a Skylake or a Kaby Lake processor, or wait till the Ryzen equivalents come out here in a couple months and build yourself a modern platform with those. That way, 4 or 5 years down the road, you still haven't needed to upgrade your processor and motherboard and that sort of thing, those base components. Because when you eliminate those and you make you sort of get your upgrade cycle down to upgrading the GPU pretty much exclusively. Maybe eventually you put a used i7 in there to get a little more horsepower out of that platform if you didn't start with an i7. But when you limit your upgrades to the GPU side of things, you really expand what you can do with a budget gaming setup. As long as you start with a good solid base computer, because a 1070 is about $400, so it's about the price of a console right now. Gives you incredible gameplay comparatively though. So if you've already got the base system built, do you want the 1070? Which will give you incredible, I run my games on a 1440p monitor at 75 hertz, and all but a few games will run at that full 75 hertz. And they look gorgeous. GTA 5 is one that won't quite run at 75 hertz. If I took down some of the anti-aliasing just a little bit, it would, but I don't typically do that. So build yourself a solid base and then your GPU upgrade cycle. Also, PC gaming gives you the option of used parts, which I think is very underrated, especially on the graphics card side of things. You can hop on eBay and get yourself like a 980 Ti. In fact, let's do this experiment now. eBay. Oops. eBay, try that again, guys. eBay 980 Ti. So, I always like to go to ending soonest just to see what's actually like going for the prices. But you can get a 980 Ti for, it looks like, if you hit the pricing right, it looks like probably sub 400. 980 Ti was the cream of the crop a year ago in graphics cards. And now it's, sub 400. That's great value. So, if you're looking at Project Scorpio and you're a console gamer, first of all, if you already have an Xbox One, there doesn't really look to be enough there to make you upgrade, I wouldn't think. Unless you can get a decent offer on your current Xbox One at that time, because if there's no exclusives for Project Scorpio, why upgrade unless you really can benefit from the 4K side of things. But if you're looking to get a console for the first time or get back into it, I don't see the draw of Project Scorpio. I'm not seeing it. It looks like the platform in general is becoming more PC-ish in that there may be more of a rolling upgrade cycle, but it's still not going to give you the customization that PCs do. For that reason, I would stick with PCs. So that's my very long-winded take on it. I'm not going to edit this video in any way. It's been going on for nearly 20 minutes. It's thoughts off the top of my head from the news. Again, before I hop out of here, please, if you haven't and you like some of my content, especially my actual recorded and edited content, which tends to be a lot better, give me a like on this video, subscribe, share, all those things are great. Follow me on Twitter here, @Hoosier Hardware. A lot of great stuff going on there. And also on Instagram, even though I don't have it pulled up. It's been fun. It's been almost 20 minutes. I'm going to get out of your guys' hair. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have thoughts, comments, leave them on down below. Tell me what you think about Project Scorpio. Tell me what your take on the news of no new complete platform is, where they're gonna just be sort of ending the traditional sense of console generations. Tell me, just in general, your thoughts on Project Scorpio, and would you buy it? Do you think that Project Scorpio is worth your hard-earned money, or do you think you would rather go a different direction? Something tells me, by the way, my audience is mostly on the PC side anyways. But if you are, great, tell me. If you're not, tell me why down below. I'm Shane, Hoosier Hardware. I will probably see you guys next week because I'm not posting anything this weekend. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great night.